That there is the new Kia Seltos. Now, if you are in the market for a proper 5-seater SUV that costs between 15 to 20 lakhs, well, our sympathies with you. Because it wasn't like there wasn't enough choice in the market. You currently have up to 6 SUVs that you can pick from. You've got the Hyundai Creta, you've got the Maruti Suzuki Grand Vitara, you've got the Toyota Hyryder, then you've got the Volkswagen Tiguan, the Skoda Kushaq to choose from. And come August, you'll also have the option of the Honda Elevate. So for the Seltos to make a re-entry, and that too as a better package, well, it can lead to a lot of confusion, and we understand that. But thankfully, we have a solution. And that solution comes in the form of a 6-point checklist. A checklist that every SUV owner, compact SUV owner, should put the prospects against to see whether that SUV should make it to their consideration set or not. We are going to judge the Seltos on those 6 parameters, and we will tell you how it does and whether you should have it on that consideration set or not. If it is an SUV you clearly want to stand out. Now, the older Seltos was a nice looking car with a good mix of traditional SUV sharp lines and some touches of modernity. Since the body panels in this facelift haven't changed, that visual cue continues on the Kia Seltos 2023 as well. It does, however, get a bolder face now, and with the added play of lights and a sportier bumper on this X-Line, it stands out even more in a crowd. Changes to the rear include a new connected tail lamp design and, like the front, a more aggressive bumper design. The Kia Seltos facelift also gets sequential indicators both front and back. As we see it, if you want an SUV with strong road presence, the 2023 Seltos totally fits the bill. It's a good size, its design isn't polarizing, and it will draw eyeballs. Now, when the Seltos came out in 2019, it already had premium interiors for its price and class. And now with the facelift, Kia has upped that ante even more. So now, depending on whether you choose the Tech line or the GT line, you will get dual tone interiors with the Tech line, tan and black. And with the GT line, you get the sportier all black interior. This is the X line. It's an extension of the GT line, and so we get kind of two-tone but essentially dark interiors. We've got black and grey, and overall it just makes the cabin look more techy, more premium, and even the touch and feel of various things inside the cabin are really well put together. So you've got soft touch here, you've got soft touch, all the grey bits on the door and the dash, a soft touch. Even the duck, like the dashboard, the texture on it, if you look at it, it feels like it's soft grain plastic, so that premiumness can be felt there too. Plus, there are more features, and overall everything falls to hand. Everything that you operate feels positive and good. The only thing that we'd say that doesn't fit into this cabin properly are the AC controls. They look a little outdated, and I'm also not a fan of the way they function. So that's something that Kia could have done better. But otherwise, I mean, even if you look at the texture on the speakers and everywhere you look and feel, it's a nice interior to feel in. And then you've also got a panoramic sunroof, so that feeling of space on a like a cloudy day today where you can really open it and use it, it just feels like a more spacious car than it is. Now, speaking of the sunroof, there are other feel-good features the 2023 Kia Seltos comes packed with. It has a longer list of features now, though only for the top spec trims. The X-Line we have here, for instance, apart from the panoramic sunroof, gets a dual-zone climate control system. It has electrically powered and ventilated front seats. The rear seats now adjust for recline. The head-up display or HUD makes a comeback. There's wireless charging, auto headlamps and wipers, and a 360-degree camera. Plus, there's plenty of storage spaces to put away your cups, bottles, wallets, and the like. The party piece of the new Seltos interior, however, is its new single-panel digital cluster. It's one integrated screen that includes displays for both the driver information system as well as the touchscreen system for the multimedia. Both these displays use 10.25-inch full-color HD screens. Otherwise, the multimedia system is similar to the older Seltos with a Bose sound system with both CarPlay and Android Auto, which still aren't of the wireless variety. At the rear, you get dedicated AC vents, an armrest with cup holders, and window blinds to keep the sun away on a hot, sunny day. The new Kia Seltos also comes with Level 2 ADAS in the top trims. There are 17 driver assist systems including adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, and blind spot collision avoidance, which prove to be handy companions on the highway. In the city though, we found it best to keep the systems off, barring the rear collision avoidance. These apart, all versions of the new Seltos also come with 6 airbags, disc brakes all around, ESP and hill start assist. So the Seltos is a wide car, and when you step inside, you can easily tell that it can seat 3 people in comfort. So shoulder room is not really a problem. The challenge really is for the middle passenger, and again, it's not so much space but more comfort. Now, sliding in or coming here is not a problem because the Seltos's floor is nearly flat, and even the AC console doesn't get in the way. So it's easy to slip into the seat, but once you do, you'll realize that the seat back is a little stiff. It's the armrest, and so for shorter distances, I think it's still okay, but over longer distances, this is going to be not a very comfortable place to be in. But the thing is that the person in the middle also gets a 3-point seat belt. So you've got three point seat belts. So again, a full marks for safety at the back. Also, the seat back on the new Seltos now can be reclined a few degrees. So if you want to work or if you want to sit more upright, you can take the seat straight up. If you want to relax a little, you can drop it back, not by a big margin, but enough to make a difference. And seat itself, I mean, in terms of the cushioning it offers is nice to be in, it's comfortable. The bottom is a little close to the floor, a little closer to the floor than we would have liked. And as a result, the thigh support is not very good. Unless, of course, you slip your feet under the front seat, then yes, you can use it. But we would have liked it maybe a little angled or a little higher. That would have helped. But it's not going to be uncomfortable. It's just that it could be better. The nicer place to be, of course, is at the front. The front seats are much nicer. They're more accommodating. They're more supportive. And that's where one would really like to spend time. But as a 5-seater, this new Seltos works. And there's a decently sized boot to complement the highway outings as well, complete with a 60-40 split and a flat loading bay once the seats are down. Now, to get that SUV feel, step one, of course, is a butch exterior. But then when you step inside, you want a car or an SUV to feel like you've got a commanding view. Now, I sit in the lowest possible position, and that's where I am in the Seltos. But you can raise this seat up, and when you do, you will find that your view is clearer, you can see the edges more clearly, and you will get that feeling that you're towering over some people, of course not everybody, but that view, that commanding view is very much there. The only thing that you'll feel which is not SUV-like is the view that you have from the front windscreen, because as you go higher up, this just starts to reduce, and we're just used to having more blocky SUVs that give you that feel, that sense of space. So that's something that is kind of missing, but it does feel like you're driving something big, something commanding. And then, of course, when you start rolling, we have the 1.5 liter turbo. This is a new engine for the Seltos. Earlier it was the 1.4 turbo. And this engine, it's got power, it's got torque. It is a good replacement for diesel in my book. The way it delivers, the way it goes about delivering that power. Now, output figures, 160 odd horsepower, and it's got close to 250 Newton meters of torque. And this torque, once the turbo kicks in, is pretty flat. So in terms of drivability, you don't have to work hard. You don't have to work the engine. You can ride the torque curve. You can drive it with really light featherweight throttle inputs, and it'll do your bidding. So that Feel of power that you expect in an SUV, that feel of torque, is very much available on this 1.5 liter Seltos as well. Plus, it doesn't have the hassle of the diesel getting noisy when you rev it. So, if you want to drive fast, if you want to drive hard, it is more than up to speed. Now, the Seltos with this 1.5 also comes with driving modes. We will just switch to, we're right now in Eco. There is normal, which is what the default setting is every time you start the car. But then when you switch to Sport, the turn of speed is extremely quick. I mean, before you know it, you're sitting at 100 kilometers per hour. The claim time is about 9 seconds, 0 to 100. And there's no reason to doubt that claim because you just step on it and it just takes. So you can feel that front rising. So it's a very nice engine. It's also not very loud. You can, of course, hear it when you go past 4,000 RPM. But overall, the driving feel is pretty good on this engine. Now, it's mated to a 7-speed dual clutch automatic in our car. You can also have one with an IMT. There is no manual available. And it's only in the kick down, which is when you step on the throttle and you wait for the car to select the right gear and then get going, like now. So that kick down in the time where it selects the gear and then when it starts picking up, that's where you'll find, I would say, significant amount of delay because it's a 1.5, you expect more. But the moment it catches on, then of course, there is absolutely no stopping it. So it is an enjoyable engine. It gives you that feel of torque. It gives you that feel of power, which you want in an SUV, especially when you're, going long distance, cruising, that kind of thing. So it fits that bill. And that's another box in our checklist that the Seltos with this 1.5 turbo checks. Yeah. Also, when you're out cruising on the highway, you're doing long distances, the Seltos can comfortably sit at 120 kilometers per hour. Some highways now in India, some expressways allow that. And it does a little under 2,500 RPM at 120, so it's not really stressed the engine. It's relaxed. You don't really hear a lot of drone. Yes, you will get some amount of tire noise, a little bit of wind noise, especially tire noise over concrete. But you can sit at 120 without a problem. It feels like a car or an SUV that you can do long distances in. And if you're now 1.5, we said it feels like a diesel, and it can be efficient as well. So if you're out on the highway and you're doing between 80 to 100 kilometers per hour, which means the car is automatically sitting in 7th gear, it has the potential to do up to 20 kilometers per hour. So that's achievable. And it's got a pretty large tank. So you're looking at a range of almost 800 kilometers. So all these things come together quite well to give you that SUV feel. And with SUVs, you really don't want to stick in the city. You want to go out. So yeah, it works well on that front. Comfort is another big factor that one looks at when you are buying an SUV. Not just in the smaller class, but also in this class and above. Now, when the first time I drove the Seltos, when it was launched, I found the car to be firmer than I would have liked. Yes, it was sporty, but in terms of comfort, the ride, the give wasn't enough. Then, of course, they had a midlife, not like a midlife change, this is the midlife upgrade, but in between they upped or they changed the suspension setting. They made it a little more pliant. I haven't driven that version, but this one, compared to the first one I drove, there is a big change. And Kia says that they have reworked the damping or the way the suspension works, front and rear. It's a little more taut at the front. There's a little more give at the back. And so you've got that sort of setting where even if you're going over undulating roads or if you get into a dip, the rear of the car would comfortably settle. It doesn't stop. It doesn't feel that firm. Front, again, it doesn't feel harsh. Yes, it doesn't bob around at all, it doesn't move around, it doesn't dip too much under braking. So it is a setting that works well. It is a setting that gives you that feel of a solid, planted, big car. And there isn't a lot of suspension noise coming in either. So comfort wise, the ride is pliant. Comfort wise, there isn't too much that the car demands from you, so you can spend long hours in it. Yeah, that's how. So that too is a box that Kia has been able to check. But the only drawback of sorts is that this suspension setting doesn't give you that. Like if you were to drive a proper long travel body on ladder kind of SUV, where it didn't matter what the road surface was, you didn't have to slow down. You would just get on the gas and go over, and it would take it all. You'd never think that you'd break anything. That feel is not there in the Seltos, so it kind of feels a little fragile. And so when you see a bad section of road, you have to slow down, otherwise you can feel the suspension being, square edge bumps will at speed will hit, and even when you go through a pothole. So it doesn't have, of course the ride is rounded, but it doesn't have that all conquering, all smothering feel, which is an SUV trait. So this, of course, being a more city centric SUV, but this is something you should know if you're looking at an SUV. Now this is where Kia has us completely stumped. This is a facelift. It has more features than the car it replaces. It has better interiors, nicer exterior design, and changes have been made to its suspension and shell to give it better ride and handling and crashworthiness. Not to mention, it now gets a new, more powerful turbo engine in the 1.5. And after all these changes, the new Seltos costs less than Rs 30,000 more. This fully loaded X-Line with the 1.5-litre turbo petrol and the dual-clutch automatic gearbox retails for a fraction under Rs 20 lakh ex-showroom. The lower versions, in fact, are cheaper than the older Seltos. Yes, some equipment like the music system has been deleted from the entry-level ones, but even then, this is still a lot of car for the money, especially if you look at the competition. So when it comes to value for money, the new Seltos has clearly got it right. The Kia Seltos facelift, as it turns out, checks most of the boxes on our checklist. And it starts with the design or the road presence. Now, the Seltos, the new Seltos, blends that squared out old school SUV charm with some modern touches really well. So it's one of those cars that if you arrive in, people will notice you. Box 2, the interiors. They are really well put together. Now you have even more features, and the overall feel of quality, premiumness and space is all there. So every time you step inside the cabin, you will feel good about your purchase. Then there's the ride or the overall comfort levels. It rounds off the bumps well. It doesn't move around too much. So if you're doing long distances, or even if you're just commuting in the city, comfort-wise, again, the new Seltos, well, it checks that box too. There are two aspects where the 2023 Seltos does not deliver as advertised. One is that all-conquering ride quality that you expect from an SUV. Now, we said that the ride is good, and it is, but when the road disintegrates, let's say you're going on the highway, you're carrying some speed, and the road suddenly, you encounter poor roads, you cannot just go flat out like you do or like you expect you can do in an SUV, like just go through all of that. Because when you encounter a big bump or a slightly bigger pothole, the Seltos can feel fragile. So you got to respect that, and you got to be a little more careful with it. So that's one. Second is the Seltos being as a proper 5-seater. Now it can seat 3 people at the back without a problem. Space-wise, there is no real issue. There is enough shoulder room. But in terms of comfort, it's not comfortable for the middle row passenger. So the seat back, especially because there's an armrest there, it is stiff. So unless you're doing short distances, it is going to be difficult for the person sitting in the middle. It'll be a punishment posting for the person. But all of this really fades away when you look at the value proposition, which is our 6th box in our checklist. Because now this one has way more features than the Seltos it replaces. and it costs only 30,000 rupees more for the added sunroof. You've got ADAS, all of that. So in terms of value proposition for what you're getting, I think you're getting a lot of car for this money, and not just in this particular top spec version, even lower down. In fact, lower down the prices are lesser than the car or the previous Seltos. So clearly Kia is serious about doing big numbers with this, and looking at all of that, I think the Seltos should certainly be on your consideration list if you're looking at a 5-seater SUV, if you haven't already decided on getting one.